On Monday the 15th of July, Stranger Things Instagram, Twitter and YouTube released the behind the scenes of Stranger Things 5, and personally I couldn't be more excited. We've had behind the scenes in the past, but these have just been photos, but now that we have actual videos, this provides us much more with actual plot lines and groupings of characters, as well as little things like costumes that we haven't seen before. And although before Maya Hawker said that filming season 5 is like filming 8 movies, so we already knew that the season would be jam-packed, I think this proves even more how busy it's going to be. And when it first came out, I literally dropped everything, and yesterday afternoon I spent 2 hours going over a minute 47 video trying to analyse everything I possibly could. So this is what this video is about, a breakdown and theories of what I think could happen in Stranger Things 5. I spend far too much time thinking about the show, so if you want to see my thoughts beyond this YouTube video, follow me on Tumblr at Eddie Munson Brainrot. I mainly post Byler stuff, even though the username doesn't really suggest that, but we'll just ignore that. I'm going to do a breakdown of the video shot by shot. Of course I won't be explaining every shot in depth, just the ones that I think there's something to unpack, but I think it's still useful so we sort of know what point of the video we are. First, we open up with a shot of Castle Byers, which we haven't seen for a while. I mean, this clearly shows that some flashbacks to Will's time in the Upside Down will be present in season 5. As we know, he hid there in season 1, and he's such a central part of season 5 that it would seem strange if we didn't know more about his time in the Upside Down and how this might explain why it's stuck on the day that he went there. We know this isn't the real Castle Byers since it has vines, although the vines seem to be moving more towards the real world this season as well, but also he destroyed the real one in season 3 after his fight with Mike, so we know that this will be the Upside Down and most likely a flashback. We've known for a while that Will be the centre focus of season 5, and the teaser opening up on a shot of Castle Byers that's so integral to his character and who he was in season 1 just reinforces the idea of his importance in season 5. Next, we move to a shot of the Duffers directing a scene. We're unable to see the scene being filmed, but from what I can see and what a lot of other people have analysed, it looks sort of like someone's kissing, so maybe it's Robin and Vicky. I don't think it's going to be either Malevolent or Byler because they're very secretive about the love triangle and what's going on with there, and I don't think it's going to be Lumax because it seems like both of the people are moving, and sorry, but Max won't be moving in the first 2 episodes. And then we move on to Dustin cycling to the cemetery. We knew he'd go to the cemetery to visit Eddie's grave before because we had a behind the scenes photo of it, but it just confirms that he's going to have a difficult time dealing with his death. He still wears a Hellfire Club t-shirt despite the connotations it holds after the hunt by the entire town for them last season, and this means that he'll definitely be a target of bullying and from the whole town of just discrimination next season. I mean, Mike no longer wears it, so it just shows that Dustin's trying to hang on to Eddie and everything he can do to remember him. And also he seems to have swapped with Mike, since Mike has short hair and he's now grown his hair out like Eddie. He seems to be taking the role of Eddie and wanting to keep him alive as much as possible. And from watching this clip closely, you can see that his shirt is already torn, yet the basketball team are at the cemetery from a later clip in the teaser, most likely visiting Jason or Patrick. So it's possible that he's been targeted before going to the cemetery, as we know that the basketball team beats him up in a later clip in the teaser. So I think this confirms that his Hellfire Club t-shirt was teared either earlier in the day because it seems that he's going to visit Eddie after school from the other scenes in the teaser, or he just continues to wear it and it happened on another day but he doesn't have another t-shirt and he's just so committed to keeping Hellfire Club alive and trying to carry on Eddie's legacy just like he asked him to. I don't think he's on his way back because it doesn't seem like his face is beat up in any way, and also it just seems a bit odd to have a scene of him biking back from the cemetery after he's just been beat up. Unless they want it to parallel the unused scene of Mike biking back after seeing Will's body in season 1. We get a Hawkins High shot and then we get the core 4 back at the table. So Will, Dustin, Lucas and Mike are back together and I couldn't be happier about it. Will's obviously back in Hawkins and at Hawkins High, which just feels so weird to actually see him there after he wasn't there last season. I don't really know how the school's running through an actual apocalypse, but I guess this is TV, we're not meant to question it. Lucas has evidently stopped trying to be popular as he hangs out with them now and doesn't seem to associate himself with the basketball team since last season. And Max is clearly still in her coma as there's not a chair for her, and Elle must be in hiding at the radio station. We can assume that the summer has passed and they're now sophomores or older, depending on the rumoured time jumps, because there might be multiple time jumps throughout the season since they're in long sleeve clothing, and obviously season 4 is set as spring break. They seem to be trying to decipher something on the radio, perhaps the message from the rest of the group, since their base this season seems to be the WSQK radio station. From their lunch trays, they seem to be sitting in a weird formation. Dustin's at the head of the table, most likely trying to fulfill Eddie's role as a DM of Hellfire, because that's where he sat. Will is on the other side of the table, with Lucas and Mike next to each other. So perhaps Will is finding it hard to open up due to his sexuality and is still guarded to the group, so is trying to draw himself slightly away. Or maybe there's a reason that he is head on in front of Mike and there's going to be a more focus on Violet this season, which I really hope so. And Gaten and Caleb at Comic-Con have said that Lucas and Mike realise the true depth of their bond this season, so perhaps pairing them together, making them sit on the same side, has a reason and moves towards us realising of the depth of the bond. Next, we have the group at the radio station, which, like I said, is going to be one of the main bases of this season by the looks of it. We have Joyce, Will, Robin, Nancy, Jonathan, Dustin, Steve, Mike and Lucas. It seems to be the main meeting point, as Elle and Hopper are hiding there, but they're not there at that point, so we don't know where they actually are, and they might be trying to form a plan at that point to defeat Vecna or something. Will and Joyce are the only ones standing in front of the group, and Will has a ruler in his hand which he might be using as a pointer, so it seems they may be explaining something to the rest of the group using the projector that Jonathan is using. The projector seems to be a call to the scene in It, where Pennywise uses the projector to contact the losers. And also, considering they've already referenced it through Vecna coming back after 27 years and Pennywise coming back every 27 years, it seems plausible that that's an intentional reference. And Joyce's outfit seems to be calling back to her in season 1, as well as Nancy's. Nancy's outfit screams the dress Elle wore in season 1 that she borrowed from Nancy. We know that season 5 is going to be very similar to season 1, so it makes sense that the outfits are similar. Dustin as well seems to be beat up now, so I think he must have gone to the cemetery after school and then gone to the radio station after that. Additionally, since he has his teared shirt at school, but then at the radio station has a teared shirt and a bloody nose and all the cuts over his face, I think this more reinforces that these two things happened on separate occasions. And then we get a shot of the rainbow room covered in vines. We don't know whether this is in the Upside Down or in the real world, because like I said earlier, it seems that the vines have moved into the real world since the apocalypse. It's either going to be that the rainbow room has been abandoned by the people that were there, or it's the Upside Down. Then we get an overview of the set, and then they're building a new set. I think it's safe to presume that this is part of the radio station, because it looks very industrial and quite bare. And then we get a shot of Steve and Robin say like, oh, this is the start of season 5, which we've already seen a photo of them in those outfits, but I love those outfits so much. And I'm so glad that they fixed Steve's hair, because I don't know if it's just me, but last season it kind of looked really greasy, so I'm happy about that. And it seems this pairing that we're going to get a lot of stop in this season, as they're wanting to go back to season 1 dynamics, but as Robin couldn't be in season 1, it makes sense to put her in her original pairing with Steve. Then we get a shot of the tunnels. So the tunnels are from season 2, when Will was possessed and the Mind Flayer was sort of forming them, and I'm so excited because they never really explained sort of what happened to them, because they weren't sealed up or anything. So I think this is going to be essential for the Upside Down taking over the real world, because they already had a bit of the real world in season 2. And then it moves on to them covering some strings and blood, which I'm assuming is going to be used in a Vecna vision, since Vecna visions tend to be red and sort of bloody. And then we have Millie talking about how it started when she was 10 and now she's 20, which is so strange because I'm the same age as all of them, so I've sort of been growing up with them, so it's just really weird. I'm assuming the talking bits throughout the teaser are from the documentary that they're doing, as they're filming a documentary alongside the making of season 5 of how they've made it, how they're going to end the story, and honestly I can't wait for that. And then we have a shot of the doors opening and then Sadie in the costume department. They're very secretive about Mac's scenes, which I can completely understand because Max's fate is sort of quite uncertain at the end of season 4. So where she's going to be is going to be a secret, and it's going to be really good viewing for us to watch to find out what happens to her. So they're not trying to reveal whether she makes a recovery or what that extent of the recovery is, but we know she has been filming, so perhaps this is in her mind as well as hospital scenes. Then we sort of get a bunch of filler shots. We get Noah with his script, the crew with bikes, walkie-talkies, the set, a clapperboard, and then Lucas in an unknown house. He's got a backpack on, so whether this is after school or they've planned and prepared to be there and need resources. So there's perhaps a potential person of interest who could help them or is trying to cause them danger, or perhaps they're working to save someone. And then we get a shot of 11. This proves that there's going to be a considerable time jump in the show because her hair seems to be at least shoulder length or at least long enough to tie it up. And she's wearing a bandana around her neck, which might be being used as a mask to protect her from the upside down, or perhaps upside down like conditions that have manifested in the real world because of the apocalypse conditions. Then we get outside of the set, and then Charlie and Natalia walking into the set. Jonathan and Nancy appear to be close in all the shots and in a lot of scenes together, so I think it's safe to say that Jancy's going to be endgame, and the weird plot they did with Stancy in season 4 will not be forgotten, but sort of be sidelines, and Steve will have his normal loveless season. Next is Caleb walking onto set, and then Sadie and Caleb talking. Sadie seems to be in her hospital gown as a costume, so it's clear she's still in her coma at least for the first episode, which, I mean, it would be weird if she wasn't. I think it's really interesting that we get a shot promoting Lumax, but none of either Byler or Malevolent on their own. I think the Duffers are really trying to keep it secret with the love triangle and what goes on there, which is quite exciting because they could have easily done BTS of Mike and Will riding their bikes with Holly, but they didn't. They're obviously hyper aware of keeping the love triangle a secret. And then you have Jamie Campbell-Bower talking about how season 5 is going to be even bigger than season 4, and then a shot of the upside down forest. Then you have a shot of Cara, who plays Karen Wheeler, at the dressing table, and she's the only adult in the teaser other than Joyce and Hopper to be included. So I think this shows that she's going to be quite important this season. I know there's theories going around of her being Alice Creel, which would be really interesting if they happened, because they definitely need to explain why she had her own season 4 poster last season, because she had very limited screen time. Definitely not enough to justify a poster, and she had the same background as all the Creel House members did last season, so that definitely needs explaining. And then you have a shot of the Duffers directing. Then you have the core 4 walking through the hall. I love this shot. I think it just captures their dynamic so well. Dustin seems to be trying to explain something he views as obvious. He looks like he's being stubborn, and the others look slightly confused. I thought perhaps he's trying to justify why he continues to wear the Hellfire t-shirt despite it being broken and despite the abuse he's getting for it. And it appears school is continuing as normal. Now, I want to move our shift over from the boys to the Tiger Pride poster in the corner. This may seem completely insignificant, but we know that the Stranger Things set designers look at every single little tiny detail, so I don't think it is. The way that the paw is drawn is kind of strange. It doesn't look like how a tiger paw should be drawn. The toes are really thin, and the paw print looks more like a heart. Adding on to that, the paw print is coloured in red, not orange or green, which is the Hawkins Tigers colours, and also literally right behind the poster. So if you put the poster upside down, it actually looks like a red bleeding heart. And you know what other red heart we know? On Mike's shield on Will's painting. I think including this little detail shows how important the painting is going to be to season 5, and how the painting plot and Will lying about it is going to extend and be essential to Mike and Will's character arc. But since the heart is bleeding, I think that could be foreshadowing either Mike getting hurt or the shield that he holds up getting damaged. We know in the past 2 seasons he's been very closed off, he hasn't been emotionally open. So I think his shield being damaged could represent his emotional shield and guard being destroyed. He could finally become emotional and open with his feelings, and perhaps more accepting of some potential feelings to Will. I think this might be especially the case considering to have a bleeding heart means to sort of be a soft-hearted person, so I think it's going to be essential to Mike's character arc this season, with him becoming a leader and more realising who he was in season 1. I also think since he's using that shield in the painting to protect the rest of the party, that he might not be able to protect someone in his party, namely Will, because he obviously cares about Will the most. He might be too late in protecting them, which links to the opening of each season with Mike being late for something, linking to season 5, and feel really guilty that he couldn't do that as his role as leader. If you want more on that theory, I've written it out on my Tumblr, which I've probably said better there, so just take a look at that. Then you have Noah hugging a duffer. I can't tell them apart, I'm really sorry, so you'll probably know which one it is. Then you have Linda Hamilton walking out, who's a new cast member this season, which was announced at Tidham, and Priya Ferguson walking out. And then you have Finn walking into Mike's basement, and it's so nice seeing Mike back in the basement because he hasn't been in there since season 3. On the corner you can see a Thing poster which has been there for the past seasons. It's inspirational for them using practical effects for the Demogorgon, and it's also inspiration for the Fade in season 3, so I think that's a really nice detail. But then also on the shelf there's a tiger toy, and Will had a tiger toy in California. So this further suggests a previous theory that Will is staying at the Wheelers, since there was a behind the scenes photo of 7 chairs at the table. It would also explain why Will's helping Mike take Holly to school, helping with these normal domestic tasks that would come with living at the Wheelers. And also he still has Will's drawings up all this time, which I love so much. Then we have the core 4 all putting their hands in the forest. This seems to be the table that Eddie used for drug deals, and the direct moment that Chrissy sort of saw the clock, that sort of time. And perhaps they use this for Hellfire games now, since I'm assuming the school won't let them use any room in the actual school because they assume it to be dangerous. This is the same day as Eclipse in the school, but before Dustin goes to the cemetery because he's not beaten up. And then I think the schedule of that day is go to school, do this hands-in thing, whatever's going on there. Dustin goes to the cemetery, something else happens which I will mention later in the teaser, and then after that they all meet at the radio station. We saw an up-close shot of that before, and Mike's hand is underneath, so I think this shows how he's really taking on the role as leader this season, which is really exciting. And then we have Gaten talking on set, and then Joyce standing. Next we have Holly's room flickering. It's really exciting because Holly's been recast as Nell Fisher, so I think it means that she's going to have a much more important role this season. Episode 2 is called The Vanishing of Blank Wheeler, so I think it's clear it's Holly by this clip, and that she definitely will be more important and essential this season. I think this parallels Will's innocence in going missing in season 1, and that the innocence always goes missing. She also wears bright colourful clothes like Will in season 1 and what he was bullied for, so I think that's a really nice callback. There's also a further callback to season 1 because Holly saw the lights flicker, and also she was wearing a similar dungarees. We can see from her room that she plays violin, so with music being so important in defeating Vecna, this might be important. And then I think she has an American Tail poster up behind her, so the story of this film might be relevant to the season, just like The Thing is an inspiration to Strange Things as a whole. They're fighting enemies but also connecting with those who matter, which goes on in the film, might be important to the story. Then we see Holly downstairs. She appears really frightened. Perhaps Vecna or a Demodog, something like that, has appeared downstairs. Or perhaps it's Henry Creel's manifestation of himself, because obviously anyone would be frightened on seeing a random man in their house. Then you have Erica and her friend, seemingly. It's a new character, so we don't really know what his role is going to be, but it's at the farm set, which we know Robin and Will have filmed at. Perhaps he's a new character's family owns the farm. And also introducing new characters in season 5, but also younger ones, suggests that they might be continuing Strange Things in some way with the next generation. Then we have the basketball team at the cemetery. I'm assuming they're there to visit Jason and Patrick, but they're obviously the ones who beat Dustin up, as we can also see him in that shot. Then there's a night shoot with an unknown character. I don't know who this is, but I'm assuming it's the same one that the stunt double was thrown later in the teaser. And then you have Jonathan working the projector. Then we have a Nancy and Mike scene, which I am so excited for. We haven't had a Wheeler sibling moment since literally season 1. Nancy is looking very concerned at Mike, and I feel this might be potentially a callback to season 1 about that conversation about liking Elle and Jonathan and then both denying it, since Nancy looks more at Mike rather than what he's doing. Mike also to me looks upset, so I think that's quite important. Mike could help Nancy realise that she truly does love Jonathan after their little blip last season, and Nancy could perhaps help Mike realise that he doesn't actually love Elle, and that could be what he looks so distraught over. Also, a lot of people have speculated that it could be similar to Will and Jonathan's season in season 4, and Mike could come out to Nancy without saying it explicitly, and Nancy could comfort him and tell him that it's okay, which would be my favourite outcome, I think. But also, the background looks slightly like a hospital, so they could be visiting Karen when she gets hurt, because we know Karen gets hurt through leaked hospital documents through the set making them, or perhaps when Mike hurts himself. Then we have a shot of Hawk and Ty, and then Lucas and Mike running, which I think happens at the same time as Dustin going to the cemetery. In the foreground it looks like it's Will who's putting his hands up to his neck, so perhaps they're running towards him to save him or help him. And then we have Murray, and then we have Joyce and Robin. I am so excited for them to have a scene together because they haven't been paired together, and I think their dynamic will just go so well. And they seem to be fiddling with wires, which I'm assuming is either for electric, maybe at the radio station, or for communication with someone else, or perhaps trying to make sure no one can find them. I don't know. Then we have Steve in the Upside Down. He has cuts by his eye, again being beat up like every season, and I don't know how this man doesn't have brain damage, but we won't question it. It's the red tinged Upside Down though, so maybe he's going to be picked on by Vecna, which would be great because it would give him the emotional depth he needs and make sure his storyline this season isn't just being a love interest, which he desperately needs. Or perhaps this suggests that Vecna will target them as a group and make them all sort of have group hallucinations so they can't help each other, because Steve does kind of seem like an odd choice to go for based on the previous seasons. Next is Steve and Jonathan in the car. We knew this already from a behind the scenes photo that Ross Steffer posted, but I'm still so excited for their pairing. They're bringing back pairings in season 1, and I think it's just going to work so well. Then we have Will going off from the group in their hands-in forest scene, which I think this really suggests that he's going to be a victim of Vecna, since both Chrissy and Fred walked off from the group, and also Chrissy literally did it in that spot, so I think it's a great parallel. And also I think, again, this confirms just how important and essential he's going to be to next season, which I'm so excited for. We have Will in the radio station, and then it moves to Hopper, who seems to be completely away from the group and also in an unknown location. His sort of beard has grown out too much, so I think we can assume that he's in hiding, since obviously the rest of Hawkins thinks that he's dead. This is the only clip of him, so it suggests that his storyline is sort of being made a secret, and since we didn't get many clips of Elle, I'm assuming that they have the same storyline. He seems to be separated from Joyce once again. He's seemingly in pain and struggling, so I don't really know what's going on with him, but I'm really excited to find out, and I'm glad he's back in Hawkins. And then we have the stunt person being thrown. We only see the back of them, so we don't know who it's going to be. It seems to be the right build and outfit silhouette for Finn, I think. And also it would explain how Mike gets hurt, because I think there's been leaked hospital documents that Mike gets hurt as well. Or perhaps a flashback to Henry Creel, because it seems to be the right build for Jamie. Or perhaps it's Elle saving Holly when Henry Creel approaches her, because we see in behind the scenes photos that they have a scene together. Or maybe Steve, because it seems to be the right build for him. Perhaps because it would link to a previous video coming out of someone screaming "Steve, run!" So perhaps Will's got his powers finally and moves him out of the way to safety? We really don't know. But they do have a backpack, so I think it's most likely that it's going to be Mike. Next we have a shot of Nancy, Jonathan, Steve and Dustin. I'm really excited for this grouping, since obviously it links back to season 1 with Nancy, Jonathan and Steve, and then Steve and Dustin together is great, and I really hope they sort of improve their friendship, which in my opinion was ruined a bit last season. It's a different day to the previous scenes at school, since Dustin now wears a WSQK t-shirt, so perhaps they're working for them, they're sort of in that organisation, or perhaps it's a disguise for Owens in the lab and them trying to build something up. Then we have a shot of a new character with a gun who I'm not sure what role he'll be playing, and then Vecna, which obviously none of us are surprised is back. He obviously wasn't dead. And then we have a shot of Will falling, obviously it's a stunt double, in season 1 clothes. So it's obviously a flashback. So whether Will sees this in a Vecna vision or whether it's just a flashback for us to see, I'm really excited to see it though, because we're going to see his time in the Upside Down in more detail, and I think that's pivotal to finding out why it's stuck on the day that Will got there. Then there's a shot of the Duffers, and then there's Elle in the Upside Down, and she has a face-off against Vecna by the looks of it. She still can't dress herself, which I'm kind of sad about because season 3 fashion was so good, but that doesn't matter if she's saving the world. And then we're met with a logo of Stranger Things 5, and then that's the teaser. I honestly couldn't be more excited for season 5, and it seems like it's going to be a great season and exactly what we're hoping for as the fans. So I'm really excited and personally really can't wait that long. So yeah, if you have any thoughts of what you think any of these clips might mean, please comment below because I'm really interested to hear everyone's thoughts.